Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media, sponsors of the 2024 Natural Resources Investment Symposium, held in Boca Raton, Florida, or in the comfort and convenience of your own home via live stream. In either case, the conference takes place July 7 through 11. Please note that during the 4 days of the conference, we will give you more information than you could possibly absorb. For that reason, all of the proceedings will be recorded, and you will have access to the recordings after the conference, which you will need to get full value from the conference. Note too that we're interviewing every conference sponsor and every conference speaker before the conference so that you can learn more about the exhibitors, contact them before the conference, and utilize the time that you have at the conference much more efficiently. Further, note that every public company at the conference, every public company exhibitor is owned in my own accounts, which is to say that they are all vetted. Sadly, the fact that I own them doesn't guarantee that the shares go up, but it does mean that unlike any other investment conference in the planet, our exhibitors are content too. They have all been vetted, as you have asked me to do for the last 30 years of this conference. Uh, to further that whole program today, I'm interviewing an old friend of mine, or rather a friend of long standing, Nolan Watson, founder and CEO of Sandstorm. Once again, to reiterate, I am a shareholder of Sandstorm, so take all of that into account. Nolan, first of all, thank you for 2 decades of effort on behalf of natural resource investing shareholders, going all the way back to your time at Wheaton Precious. Thank you, too, for your ongoing sponsorship and support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad I've been on this journey for the last 20 years with you.
Uh, Tell us something about yourself. Tell us how you came to be CEO of Sandstorm, maybe a little bit about your staff. In other words, establish some credibility about why we should care about what you might have to say about anything else that I ask you.
Okay. I don't know where to start, but I guess I'll start with been in business my entire career, and got sucked into the mining business. I did a business degree out at UBC. Got sucked into the mining business when I became part of to become a CPA, and they sent me off to the jungles of Myanmar and Mongolia, the deserts of Mongolia, and got pulled into the business and fell in love with it, and ended up working for a company called Goldcorp, and I was one of their first employees back when Goldcorp had a head office of 16 people in Vancouver. I was one of those 16 people. We started up a company called Silver Wheaton, which was the world's first ever streaming company. I was their first employee. I was their chief financial officer for a number of years. We built out that company into a multi-billion-dollar market cap New York Stock Exchange listed company. And through that process, I think I ended up holding the world record for youngest ever CFO of a multi-billion-dollar New York Stock Exchange listed company in the entire world. At least that's what the NYSE told me at the time. So we built that company up for a number of years, and then I decided my father, who was an entrepreneur himself and had built a number of companies, he was CEO of about 7 different companies. I thought, I'm going to go do it myself, and so I left Wheaton and started up Sandstorm about 14 years ago, and have been building Sandstorm ever since. And we've now built Sandstorm into a multi-billion-dollar New York Stock Exchange listed company.
So you were one of the earliest of the smaller royalty and streaming companies, after, of course, Franco and Wheaton. And I would argue that you were able to buy royalty and streams long before it was popular, and pay less than other people had to pay when the competition came into the fray. In the first instance, would you agree with that? Uh, and if so, if you would agree, talk to us about some of your signature assets in Sandstorm.
Yeah, I think one of the benefits of being a streaming and a royalty company is that you get to all the benefits of the exploration upside that the mining companies have at their mines. They have to give you your percentage of the revenue, and but you don't have to bear any of the costs. So the exploration upside, it costs them to find the new ounces, it costs them to mine the new ounces, but they just have to give you the new ounces that they find. And so when you're starting a company like Sandstorm, when you're trying to be a streaming royalty company, what you really want to do is negotiate contracts where you're tying down large tracts of land. You want enormous areas of interest underneath these royalties. And so, because we were able to start Sandstorm, like you said, so many years ago, um, when the industry was really evolving, we've been tying down enormous tracts of land all over the world. We've got over 240 streams and royalties, and what's unsaid is the amount of land that some of those things cover. And in some cases, they cover thousands of square kilometers, and we paid very little dollars for them. And so we're building this optionality in our portfolio, and over the years, we built a company now, though, that of those 240 streams and royalties, 40 of them are producing, and at today's gold prices, we're making enormous amounts of money. I mean, we're probably close to $160 million US a year of cash flow at today's gold prices, going up to, based on things we've already bought as things are getting built, about $250 million a year of cash flow per year to our shareholders.
And talk to me about that $250 million a year in the context of your market capitalization. How much am I paying for access to $250 million a year in cash flow?
Yeah, so $250 million a year per cash flow, juxtaposed against a market cap of about $1.7 billion. And then there's the other parts of the valuation equation are, do you have debt? Do you have other assets that are not in that streaming royalty portfolio? And the answer is, we have about 300 and something million dollars of debt. We have 300 and something million dollars of investments and debt that mining companies owe us. Those two things kind of offset each other. And so really it's just, our market cap is backed by a quarter, what will become $250 million of cash flow a year.
I want to get down deeper in that because I think the most common misperception of Sandstorm from the analyst reports that I read focuses on your debt. In the first instance, at your current cash flow, the debt would extinguish itself in what, 2 years, 2.2 years. At future cash flows, it extinguishes itself in a little more over 1 year. But what's important is if you look at the balance sheet, that debt itself is offset by other financial instruments, assets on your balance sheet. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got just, as of this morning, I got my most recent cash report, and our debt amount is now below $400 million, or 385, $390 million, and dropping rapidly at these gold prices. But we have $320 million of investments we have made in debt instruments or equity instruments of other mining companies. So we're owed some money over here, and we owe some money over here, and those things basically offset each other. And then we just have this huge amount of cash flow that's just coming in from our streams and our royalties. So our debt is effectively evaporating from two sources. One is our current operating cash flow that we're making. We're using all of it to just pay down our debt right now. And I'll talk about this in a second, but buy back shares. We're actually in the market buying back our own shares because we're deeply undervalued. Every day we're buying. Yesterday we bought some shares. Today we'll buy some shares. Tomorrow we'll buy some shares. We're using our cash flow to buy back shares, to pay down debt. And at the same time, this equity and debt that other people owe us, we're monetizing that. We're selling those things, and we're taking the proceeds to pay down our debt. So our debt is just kind of evaporating really quick.
So let's assume, as I do, that the debt which concerns people is actually a non-issue relative to the so-called redundant assets on your balance sheet and your free cash flow. Tell us something about the operating assets. Tell us something about the mineral assets that are paying you today, and tell us something about the transformative mineral assets that shareholders can look forward to receiving benefit from.
Yeah, so I'd say the first thing about our asset base is that no one asset is worth more than 12% of our value, which is a good thing. When you're buying a streaming and royalty company, what you want is diversification. You don't want to be so focused on one asset and what's going to happen with that one asset. If it goes well, great, I'll make money. If it doesn't go well, I lose money. If they don't get their permits, then I don't make money. With a streaming and royalty company, you don't really have to worry about that if they've diversified themselves properly. So what I would say is that cash flow that we're getting, that I'm talking about, is coming from all corners of the world. We've got royalties and streams on assets literally all over the world. Having said that, of the key assets that we have in our portfolio, so this is some data that the Bank of Montreal put out. They analyzed, of the 6 major streaming and royalty companies in the world, what percentage of their value comes from their top 5 assets. And for Sandstorm, we are the most diversified. Only 43% of our value comes from our top 5 assets, whereas even the big guys, 65% of their value comes from their top 5 assets. They're even less diversified than we are. We're just very, very diversified. We've been doing this for a very long period of time. But when you dig into what are those top assets, we're very proud of those top assets. They're generational, low cost, long life assets. You know, I've been in the mining industry long enough to know that investing in high cost mines is a bad idea. Either investing in the mining company directly, it's a bad idea. Even investing in royalty companies where the royalties are underlying mines where they're high cost, that's a bad idea. And so we built Sandstorm purposefully so that it's on long life, low cost mines. So it's mines like Antamina in Peru, which is one of the lowest cost quartile mines in the entire world, operated by Teck and Glencore. And we've got mines like Hod Maden, which is eventually going to get built here, which is going to be one of the lowest cost gold mines in the entire world. And we've got a significant stream on that. Equinox is currently building their Greenstone mine. First gold pour, I'm told, should be next couple of weeks. And we've got a big stream on that. It's in Canada. It's a very long life mine, so on and so forth. I could go down the list. Platte Reef, Ivanhoe, Robert Freeland, they're building their Platte Reef mine in multiple phases. And Sandstorm has a big gold stream on that asset. It's going to be one of the lower cost producers in the world, and it's going to go for a generation. So we've got these long life, low cost assets underpinning the core of Sandstorm, and then all of this optionality throughout the rest of the world.
This long life is important to investors. What people need to realize is that if you were brought up at doing NPV calculations like I was, in a very long lived asset, after you've done an 8-year NPV calculation, you restart the clock, which is to say, the redundant value of a long lived NPV asset is the same as the starting point. It's difficult for people to comprehend that, but they have to recognize it. Nolan, first of all, thank you for your efforts on behalf of shareholders, particularly me. You may not know this, but I was a 9% shareholder of Wheaton
Yeah, I
River
appreciate it.
before Wheaton Precious. So I've been with you a very long time. So thank you for that. Thank you, too, for your ongoing sponsorship and support of the symposium. Should my attendees want to learn more about Sandstorm, and they should, who is it specifically that they contact, and how do they reach that person?
Yeah, so depending on what questions you have, there are different people in Sandstorm that are the best people to talk to. We got one point person. His name is Mark Clausen. And if you contact Mark or go to our website at sandstormgold.com and IR, that will go to Mark. And Mark will either answer your question directly or he will get you in touch with the person who can answer it best, whether that be myself or Ian Grundy or Dave Oram or whoever he points people to.
Nolan, I look forward to hosting you in Boca Raton at the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. Thank you again for your time.
I look forward to it. Thank you.